Hey guys, Zibboyeye or just Zib is fine, and today we're looking at a Takashi Miike classic. In this video we're looking at Japanese horror movie, put an asterisk on that, Audition. 1997 saw the publication of a novel titled Audition, penned by Reveiw Murakami. The following year, production company Omega Project of Ringu fame collaborated with several studios to adapt Murakami's novel. Though Murakami had written and directed some previous cinematic takes on his work, Omega sought out Takashi Miike to direct Audition. Even if you rarely dabble in foreign films, you've likely seen one of Miike's countless works. To put the magnitude of his filmography into perspective, Audition is one of 6 movies he directed to release in 1999. Miike selected Daisuke Tengan as screenwriter. Initially, Murakami was unsure of the script, but became more confident considering Miike's direction. Murakami and Miike met only once during filming. The author presented many ideas on how to craft the movie, to which the director only pretended to listen. That may seem a bit rude, but Murakami already had his preconceived image of the story. He rendered it in his book. Miike resisted the author's suggestions to preserve the integrity of his fresh vision. I use a similar echo chamber tactic for my videos where I try to avoid other reviews of the material I'm looking at, just to make sure I have a new view and not to be swayed by any other opinion. And perhaps Miike's strategy was the right call, as Audition became one of the director's most famous works. So famous that a Western remake began scripting. But with just crickets about it in the news for almost 10 years now, who knows if it will see the light of day. But it's something to put a tack in case it ever comes to fruition and I cover it in the future. But back to the present, we have a movie to review, so let's memorize our lines and look at Audition. The story follows Shigeharu Aoyama, a widower of 7 years. His son Shigehiko suggests his father start dating again. A film producer friend proposes a scheme, an audition for lead heroine in a film that in actuality is an audition to be Aoyama's partner. Love-struck, Aoyama quickly becomes enamored with one of the women, Asami Yamazaki. However, the lonely heart falls into the deep rabbit hole that is Asami's past and finds his life may be in danger. The characters are alluring. One aspect that intrigued me early on is Aoyama's engagement with the audition. He agrees to conduct it but refuses to question the woman, at least before Asami appears. Aoyama considers his complacency in the fraud permissible, but is hesitant to play an active part, demonstrating both his desperation and humanity that drew me in. Aoyama is played by Ryo Ishibashi. Miike directed Ishibashi to behave as he does in real life. And it shows through, especially in small bits like this. It feels so candid. His love interest Asami is played by Eihi Shina, who had only performed one role prior. At the time, Shina didn't have an established type to inform the viewer what to expect of her character. This accentuated Asami's enigma. A frequent collaborator of Miike's, Hideo Yamamoto, brings talented camera work to the film. I'll give a rundown of a few shots that stood out. During the audition, the men are shown in medium shots while the women are mostly in wide shots made to look vulnerable. However, the dynamic flips on its head when Asami enters the room. Now Asami occupies more space while the men appear small. In contrast to the prior woman, Asami is presented in medium shots equal to Aoyama. Aoyama may be asking the questions, but Asami's in control. The symbolism extends to their dates. Notice Aoyama is boxed off within this window. It appears as though he's on a screen similar to the woman recorded during the audition. Fitting because the camera only shifts here when Aoyama lies.
例の映画のことなんだけどさ、スポンサーが脚本にクレームをつけてさ、結局制作延期になりそうなんだ。
It illustrates Aoyama's front, merely performing the role of a boyfriend. Once again, Asami's power displacing Aoyama's. She is auditioning him. Halfway through, the visuals take a stark shift. By this point, the imagery indulges more in artistic license. The vibrant complementary colors keep my eyes glued to the screen. On top of that, surreal psychological representations rear their head, taking advantage of the story's adaptation to visual media. This turn brings me to Audition's intergenre play. The majority of the first hour plays out like a romance. Afterwards, the film becomes suspense horror. It's kinda impossible to advertise. If you expect a romantic romp, the end will send you running for the hills. So the film was advertised as a thriller. But if you want bloodshed, you'll be met first with an hour of love drama. The film uses this contrast to its advantage. The anticipation of horror can make for some anxious moments in its own right. For example, in this scene. Followed nonchalantly by a date. I know I saw that. The movie's psyching me out. The bisected structure of the narrative is key to the film's affect. It calls to mind one of Asami's lines.
不幸なんて本当に感じたことありません。だって私はいつだって不幸だった。
How scared can you feel in a movie where scared becomes the norm? Audition uses its comfortable first hour to define the fear in its latter half. In doing so, Audition also reveals our own comforts in cinema, and that is genre. Genre is defined by tropes. Recognizing these tropes guides the viewer what to expect. We don't like knowing what specifically will happen in a story, but that groove that is the general idea of where a plot is headed provides a sense of safety. Think about trends like superhero movies. Repetitious plotlines have taught the viewer how to maneuver within the narrative. But Audition strips that beaten path away. The split, mixed and mashed narrative leaves the viewer anxious, lost, desperate for direction. This is how Audition uses its form and audience to craft its horror. I'll speak briefly on the film's notorious climax, followed by my take and meaning, so spoilers until this time, and let's get to it. Uncovering each of Asami's lies, Aoyama discovers the truth behind the woman when she ambushes him. Enraged by the existence of Aoyama's past love, Asami proceeds to maim and torture him. Even on the second time around, this scene is hard to watch. But beyond content, its effectiveness owes thanks to its dramatic build-up and empathy towards Aoyama. Shigehiko interrupts the crime.
どうしたのおいで。なんだよお前。なんだよお前。
His reaction stands out. I can easily picture Shigehiko erupting into a loud shriek, immediately leading into an altercation with the killer. But instead, the scene starts at a stammering pace. Shigehiko is confused and needs to piece his mind back together. Even in the end, Audition refuses to deliver on expected tropes, making for an authentic moment. Shigehiko kicks Asami down the stairs, killing her and saving his father. Now, what do I take from this story? In spite of the tale's horrific turn, the movie centers around love. The audition through which the two find love is a sham not only from Aoyama's intention but by mere nature of the device. Just as Aoyama is trying to find a wife, the women are trying to get the role. After, the movie blurs the line between an audition and a date. In their following engagements, Aoyama continued to inquire into Asami's past. Paralleling their initial meeting, the dates are like an extension of Asami's interview. This is on top of Asami's facade, or maybe it would be more accurate to say Asami's acting. Later, Asami and Aoyama meet at a picturesque love hotel, a location designed to invoke romance. It's like a set. It's just as artificial as the rest of Aoyama's and Asami's relationship. After all, their pairing was predicated on fraud. Both Asami and Aoyama size up each other against the role they each impose on one another. In part, both manipulate each other to acquire their desired compassion. Neither individual entered the relationship for the intrinsic value of his or her partner. Each sought the other's affection as a commodity. Audition's warning is thus: assessing a partner's worth via one's expectation for them results in a relationship where both parties drain dry. So that was Miike's audition. How did it fare over 20 years later? The lead lovers captured my interest. The visual presentation was superb and the horror took advantage of the narrative's unique form. Lastly, the film deconstructs the search for love plot to expose a harmful mentality some approach dating from. At the time, neither Miike nor Tengan were versed in horror, and perhaps that's what made Audition work so well. Their fresh eyes made a film that's all its own. That's Audition, and that's a wrap. I've been Zibboyeye, or just Zib is fine, and thank you for watching. Zibbo, bye bye!